Hello and welcome to Inside the Americas. I'm Delano D'Souza. Coming up on the show this week, the mudslinging continues as Jair Bolsonaro and Lula da Silva try to bring down the other ahead of next weekend's elections in Brazil. The US says it's in talks with international partners to bring the security situation in Haiti under control after the country's Prime Minister appealed for help. Plus, the symbol of America's film industry gets a makeover ahead of its centennial in 2023. But first, the race for the presidency is heating up over in Brazil. The country is set to head to the polls next weekend to choose between Jair Bolsonaro and Lula da Silva. Both the current and former president went head-to-head in their last televised debate on Sunday evening. Unsurprisingly, Bolsonaro went after Lula for corruption, whilst he was accused of playing with the lives of Brazilians during the pandemic. Antonia Kerrigan reports.
It was their first time alone on stage, but the discourse quickly descended into an exchange of insults and accusations.
Lula, you should have stayed home, enjoying life, not trying to get back to the crime scene.
Bolsonaro, you continue to lie through your teeth.
Just 10 days out from the second round, both candidates targeting poorer voters.
You know I am a candidate who intends to rebuild this country. What's most important is that the poorest people become citizens again.
You talk so much about the poor, and I want to make it very clear. During 2020, when the people were forced to stay at home, not by my decision, but by many governors of your party, in emergency aid alone, we spent the equivalent of 15 years of your Bolsa Familia scheme.
The hard-right populist also moved forward October's welfare payments by a week, experts pointing to political motives. Since then, both are back on the campaign trail. Bolsonaro returned to Minas Gerais on Tuesday, the place where he was stabbed during his last presidential runoff, vaunting his economic record, while 1 in 3 Brazilians is struggling to afford food. Based on the results of the first round of voting, the region is a hub of shy Bolsonaristas. Meanwhile, Lula is in Sao Paulo, promising economic growth and higher wages. The incumbent claimed Brazil's most populous state by nearly 7 points in the first round, leaving the Workers' Party candidate scrambling for votes in what is traditionally a left-wing stronghold.
US President Joe Biden is vowing to enshrine abortion rights nationwide if Democrats win the battle for Congress. He's trying to keep the issue alive in the midterm elections after the Supreme Court decision earlier this year, which struck down the Roe v. Wade ruling. Early voting has begun in Georgia. The state is set to decide which party gets to control the Senate.
2 years ago, the state of Georgia was at the centre of one of the biggest surprises of the presidential election. Swinging in favour of the Democrats, it played in Joe Biden's favour, granting the president control of the US Senate. And with 2 elections now underway, Georgians are already packing polling stations.
I think the idea of Medicaid expansion is so important, and I believe we'll get that with Stacey Abrams and Raphael Warnock.
I voted for Stacey Abrams for governor, and I voted for Raphael Warnock for our Senate. I couldn't, in any clear conscience, vote for Herschel Walker.
For the Senate, I wasn't happy with either choice, to be honest with you, but I bit my tongue and voted for Herschel Walker.
Republican nominee Herschel Walker is running against incumbent Senator Raphael Warnock, who last year became, together with Jon Ossoff, the first Democrat to win in Georgia since the year 2000.
I am going to the Senate to work for all of Georgia.
A victory that split the control of the chamber 50-50, and that ultimately gave the Democrats control thanks to Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote as Vice President of the United States. But as Herschel Walker tries to oust the recently appointed senator, the businessman has come under criticism for reportedly exaggerating his success, while allegedly paying for a woman's abortion despite his pro-life stance.
Do you know what this $700 check is for?
I have no idea what that can be for. Voters should believe me because I've been very transparent about everything I've ever done.
Either candidate must obtain over half of the votes by the 8th of November or face a runoff vote 4 weeks later.
As my time as Secretary of State, I'm the person that created the online voter registration system in this state, where any Georgian can vote.
Meanwhile, a rematch to lead the state is also underway as the Republicans' Brian Kemp attempts to defend his seat, narrowly won over Stacey Abrams in 2018.
Whether it's access to the right to an abortion.
The outcome of the votes will tell us whether the once Republican stronghold has really and truly given way to a new Democrat force in Georgia.
To our number of the week next, and it's 7.1 million. That's the number of Venezuelans who have left the country since 2015. Aid agencies warn they risk being forgotten amidst other crises. This as more than half of Venezuela's migrants face challenges accessing food, housing, and stable employment, according to the United Nations. Now, US officials say they're in talks with international partners who are interested in playing a role in bringing the security situation in Haiti under control. It comes after the country's Prime Minister Ariel Henry issued an appeal for help. Haiti has been grappling with food and fuel shortages, spiraling inflation, and now an outbreak of cholera. Nick Rushworth reports.
Thousands of Haitians took to the streets of the capital, Port-au-Prince, to protest against foreign intervention. The demonstration led to the burning of barricades and the looting of a supermarket outside the US Embassy. Police fired tear gas at protesters waving Russian flags. The anger is at the US and Canada, which have sent military help to assist Haitian police in their fight against criminal gangs that have blocked the country's main fuel terminal.
No to the Canadians. No to the Americans. You are monsters. You don't have solutions. You are chaos. You are behind the gangsterization of crime.
A coalition of gangs has blocked the port for weeks to protest against a government cut in fuel subsidies. They and street demonstrators want Prime Minister Ariel Henry to resign. He announced in early September his administration could no longer afford to subsidize fuel.
This system must be dissolved. This country is literally controlled economically by 5 families. We, the masses, have almost nothing.
At the UN in New York, the Secretary General said the lack of fuel is preventing the distribution of water, which in turn is making famine and a new outbreak of cholera worse.
It's an absolutely nightmarish situation for the population of Haiti, especially Port-au-Prince.
The UN met in emergency session to address the country's multiple crises. Mexico and the United States said they wanted to send in a multinational force. Russia and China, however, raised questions about sending in foreign troops. Meanwhile, daily life for Haitians goes from bad to worse. Political instability has simmered since the death of the country's president last year.
Now, it's one of the most recognizable signs in the United States and has come to symbolize Tinseltown around the world. The Hollywood sign is being spruced up for the first time in a decade ahead of its 100-year anniversary next year. Leo McGuinn explains.
9 iconic letters that symbolize the magic of cinema and the American dream. Perched on the hills of Los Angeles, the Hollywood sign is getting a makeover. Cleaning and a new paint job, all part of the program. Suspended 14 meters above the ground, a dozen workers are tasked with restoring one of the city's biggest attractions, using over 1,500 liters of paint to restore the sign. These 2 men have the privilege to work on the exceptional project, something they have called an unforgettable experience.
I've lived in LA all my life, and everybody when they're little, they've always had a dream to be in Hollywood, and honestly, it almost feels like being a star in Hollywood, being right here painting the sign.
I'm very excited to come over here to work in this place, and I'm in charge for this crew.
The 9 white letters were never intended to become as recognizable as they are today. The sign was initially an advertisement for the sale of plots of land in the future Hollywoodland district. The letters, which only stood for 18 months, quickly fell into disrepair. In 1949, the Chamber of Commerce decided to restore them and remove part of the word. Hollywoodland became Hollywood. 30 years later, the wooden letters were replaced by a steel version, a project funded by stars such as Hugh Hefner and Alice Cooper to give it the look that is so iconic today. Tourists still come in their droves to visit the sign,
We're in Hollywood! Yay!
travelling long distances just to catch a glimpse.
I landed this morning. I didn't worry about the jet lag. I was desperate to come and hike 5 kilometres up here just to see this amazing sign. You know, I've been wanting to do it, taking the pictures.
It's like 3 things about America: Statue of Liberty, the White House, and the Hollywood sign. So yes, please keep it in shape.
According to this expert, it's more than just a sign. It's a symbol of a country where anything is possible.
It's an interesting kind of icon because it's letters. It's not a statue, it's not an image of a person or an object. It's a myth. It's a myth that we can make for ourselves. What aspiration means and, you know, what achievement means there. But the sign somehow embodies.
The last restoration of the letters was 10 years ago, but this time it takes on extra significance. The iconic sign will celebrate its 100th birthday in 2023.
That's it for this edition of Inside the Americas. From all of us on the team, thank you very much for watching.